Hello and welcome to my June newsletter. Feels like we're almost out of it, and I think that's a reflection of time and where time goes. I think that we're certainly in a time where we feel like a day is equal to a week, and a week is equal to a day, and time just seems to be sort of running away from us. So, for this month's newsletter, I talk about emotional intelligence. It's been a real key phrase for me this year. And in looking at my clients and working with my clients as they come through on a week by week and a day by day basis, many of my clients are really misunderstanding their intuition versus their emotional intelligence. And there's a really fine line as to what that definition is, because I think they do work hand in hand, but we've got to recognize our own inner emotional intelligence as that barometer, our self barometer that guides us, following those breadcrumbs that gets us to the next step in our life. So what is emotional intelligence? That's the thing that people have been asking. So, in a really broad perspective, emotional intelligence, from my perspective, is having the ability to walk into a situation and really know right from the moment what the outcome of that situation is going to be. It's meeting people in the street that you haven't seen for a long time, and you instantly know, you have a knowing of what it is that's happening in their life. So they'll be saying something to you, but you're seeing the underlying context of what it is that they're saying. It's about going into a room and reading a room, reading everyone in that room, knowing who you can talk to, who you can relate to, who you vibrationally match, and who you actually just want to sort of keep your distance from. That's emotional intelligence. And it seems to me, as I have reflected and what I've written in my newsletter, is that we've come a long way. We've come a long way from 2012. So I want to go back to 2012. I want to go back to that time where I suppose there was so much out there about the coming of the new age. It was the coming of a time and a period in our lives we were just going to wake up one day and spiritually be far more connected. And so for some people, it was quite disappointing because we didn't have the alien invasion or the alien connection. We did not experience this mega shift. We didn't open our eyes on the 1st of January as we slipped in from 2011 to 2012 with this, wow, I'm this brand new person. For a lot of us, it was just like, oh, that was a bit of a damp squid. A bit like when we came from 1999 into the 2000s. For those of us that remember that, it's just that, wow, the superbugs didn't happen. The world didn't collapse. Everything just actually sailed on quite nicely. However, what has been happening for a lot of us is this undercurrent of personal development and growth, which is so microscopic, so minuscule, that on a day by day basis, as we have invested in meditations, as we have, I suppose, invested in new learning, new books, new teachings, new awarenesses, underneath our conscious awareness, we have been developing and developing and developing in such a way that you may not actually have noticed that you've come through the 5th dimension and you're now into 6th dimensional living. And so what is the difference? What is the difference? So I should have actually left my notebook open, but this is my Ascension Notebook that I actually, from 2004. This is my Ascension Notebook. So that's when I became an Ascension teacher for the Diana Cooper School. And our teacher, Sue-Ann, was just awesome. And she gave me this wonderful template, which I have kept. And I have utilized this within my own Ascension teachings, obviously, because it's all part of the process. But I'm going to sort of give you just an overview of 1, 2, and 3. The 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3-dimensional living. We're in that physical realm. We're connected to everything that is physical. Everything is 3D. So my computer is 3D. It has height, depth, and width. So therefore, it is a 3D object. And I'm talking to you on this 3D dimensional level, this physical level. We're having this conversation, albeit digitally. But that's where it goes. When I think back to my Ascension teaching, and for me, I was asking questions like, well, why did I choose to be born to Ian and Sandra Mackey? Why did I choose to have an event where my father passed away at the age, when I was at the age of 4? Why would I choose that on a soul level? It feels such a cruel thing, such a cruel happening in my life. And, all of the events that my father missed out on, all the events that I didn't have my father there for. And it's really those key things that we think about: walking me down the aisle, or seeing my baby being born, becoming a grandfather, all those soul questions. So 3rd-dimensional living is all about that physical connection to everything that we have around us. And then suddenly with Ascension, we start asking those questions. So why did I choose to have these really hard emotional aspects of my life? And that's when we're coming up to 4th-dimensional living. We're beginning to tackle the big issues emotionally. We're beginning to come inward. And we're beginning to see ourselves beyond our physical reality. We're beginning to ask ourselves, well, is this the right job? Is this the right partner? Am I living in the right life? What am I doing? So we have an emotional need or an emotional awareness that things are not quite fulfilling. The physical aspect of our life isn't fulfilling the emotional aspect of our life. Some of you might be there right now. So you're on your Ascension. Well done, you. So an emotional body then starts to really look at that deeper aspects of who we are. So when I think about who I became, so I started to ask that question, especially about my dad, why was I a child where I had to go through grief? Not necessarily at the age of 4. In fact, definitely not at the age of 4. But at the age of 16, absolutely, that was a mind-blowing revelation and realization for me. It was my first nervous breakdown. My emotions were laid bare. And those questions of, well, this is just not fair, actually. So I don't think that's a question, that's more of a statement, Phil. So it was a statement of, actually, this is not fair. Life is cruel. Life is hard, and it's hard. And so that emotional process starts to kick off. And really, I suppose for me, it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I started to really do all my healing work, in that 30-somethings, where I started to really own my emotions. I couldn't blame the universe for my father's death. I couldn't blame anyone for my father's death. I had to go into a level of emotional acceptance. And then thinking about, well, who did Phyllis become? Who did she become through not having a father at such a young age? And so when I think back, of course, I was brought up in a cinema. I was very, very lucky. My grandmother was a manager of cinemas, and multiplexes back then were not the norm, but she did have a multiplex in the late 1990s. So the 1970s, 1980s, which is very unusual. Multiplex, of course, are just an in thing now. But being brought up in the cinema, I had all of these wonderful masculine figures. I'll show my age now. So for me, it was the Cary Grants and the David Nivens and the Paul Newmans and the Robert Redfords. And the Gene Hackman, those really strong characters that they portrayed, or the gentlemanly characters, or the kind and loving characters, or even the rebels. When we think about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, definitely that rebel type characters. And so that shaped my perception of what I thought would be my ideal man, the ideal person, the ideal masculine energy to surround myself with. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. And I've done a good job of attracting those men into my life on the friendship level, but also with my life partner of 34 years. So, I missed it on a physical level, but emotionally, I certainly attracted that in. And so for fourth dimension, if you're really at a stage where you are looking at events, looking at what's been happening, you're taking on board your emotional well-being and your emotional healing, to say, well done you. It's hard, it is hard, but you're on your fourth dimensional living. Fifth dimensional living, the fifth dimensional mind, 2012, was all about the creative mind. It was about manifesting. So The Secret was out. Our vision boards were out. We were into the mental mind. Fifth dimensional living is really taking your mental mind and creating where you want to be, creating a time and a space ahead of time that you are going to have the best time of your life. You're going to be investing in your life. You're seeing and believing that you can be that person in the future. So fifth dimensional time is where we are living, is where we're here, and we can track back in time and heal the past so that we can track forward in time and create the future that we want. We have the ability of tracking forward and back. That's fifth dimensional living. Lots of deja vu, lots of people, as I say, really investing in Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, if you like, the vortex, the secret, mindfulness, lots of people going out there and actually diminishing the boundaries, diminishing the emotional boundaries of not being good enough, not being worthy enough, not succeeding in life. We, from 2012, moved into this mental space of fifth dimensional living. But actually, I think very, very subtly and very, very softly, we've come into sixth dimensional living, which is where we are in our full spiritual being. We have graduated, I'm using that word, we have graduated, and well done to all of those who are now in a realm or in a space where, as I say, we read the context of an email sent to us and we see the underlying message. We put a thought out there and a thought comes back and go, bang, that all makes sense. I'll follow that breadcrumbs. It's where we are on a spiritual level, not necessarily having to see what the end goal is, but trusting and knowing that with every breadcrumb that we get, we are following those breadcrumbs, knowing that spiritually is going to get us to where we need to be without necessarily having to see where it is that we need to be. I think the most recent episode for me, because I do like to sort of tell you where I've been. So the most recent episode for me was I was giving a client of mine a healing, so a little bit of theta and Reiki. And so she was on the healing bed and I was up at her crown center working away, and a thought popped in, why don't you buy her business? Now, I've been working with this client for over a year, adjusting her energy, getting her ready to let go her business, giving her confidence that the other business that she created, that she can invest in full time. And so I've known that the business has been up for sale for well over a year. Never even crossed my mind that I should buy it. But suddenly this thought popped into my head, why don't you buy her business? And I thought, oh. So I then put the thought out, well, why would I buy her business? And then the thought popped back, oh, because it's energy. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, well, you're right. Okay, I'll sit with it. And so then I disconnected from that and I was working with the client. And at the very end of the session, we'd actually wrapped up the session. And I said, well, full disclosure, this thought popped into my mind. Would you mind sending me the details of your business? I actually don't know what the details or the purchase involves of your business, but I'm going to follow this bouncing ball. So I actually purchased the business in April, and it's called energizenz.com. And we provide on-site wellness massage sessions for within the commercial industry, so here in New Zealand. And my thought process, well, okay, so why am I buying this business? Why am I buying this business? And so the thoughts kept popping up because you could bring mindfulness into the corporate world. This is your way into the corporate world. And so we're just about to beta test what we're going to call the mind bubble, the business bubble, where staff members, you can buy a meditation pack that would suit you if you're in corporate sales, corporate management, crisis management, staff development, whatever it is. So we're putting together a whole range of between 5 and 10 minute business mind concepts, so that if you need that little bit of boost during your commercial day, then you can just link in and just take a breather, just go into that mind bubble, defrag from a fractious phone call or a disappointing sale, or how do I implement change? Where's my confidence? Can I get my message across? So we'll have all of those in there. And I actually feel really excited, and I feel really blessed to have connected to such a wonderful team of amazing therapists out there and really appreciative clients. So our emotional intelligence is that. Our emotional intelligence is hearing that voice. We don't necessarily need to know our guides, as long as it feels really good. And as long as you can put it into a framework that you can connect to, or you can see that bigger picture, then you will keep moving yourself ahead, keep following your thoughts and your feelings on that spiritual level, so that you find yourself with emotional intelligence. You should find yourself in a place where, regardless of what's being thrown at you, you can actually really keep a sense of balance, because you're seeing the undercurrent. You don't have to attach to the undercurrent. You don't have to attach to the personal attacks. You don't have to feel wounded by those personal attacks, because you've got your own emotional intelligence spiritually that is giving you the bigger picture stuff. And so I just think, yeah, it has been a month, June. It's been a really difficult month for some people. Some people have had a whole week where they've really felt like they've been pulled through the ringer. So I'm going to ask you to really think about your own emotional intelligence, following that train of thought that helps you disconnect and helps you stay spiritually sound and emotionally safe, so that you're dealing with those crisis points on a far better and calmer, a more spiritually focused way. We've made it. We've come through fifth dimension. We've come through fifth dimensional living. We're into sixth dimensional living. And I really feel that once you've maybe listened to this conversation, maybe had some time to think about what's happening in your life, then come back and revisit this video, the penny will drop. Because I think as a global species, we are seeing levels of emotional intelligence coming up through all different aspects of life, different walks of life. And I think when you start to trust yourself, then you're making really good decisions most of the time, not just some of the time. So I hope that makes sense. That's the context of my newsletter for this month. For those of you that are really interested in Ascension, interested in mental, spiritual, emotional development, dimensional thinking and living, you should really consider or maybe think about joining me in my live Ascension class. I've moved the date to the 2nd of July. We've got students booked in already, which is really, really lovely. And that's where I'll sit with you as in this forum, talking to you personally, interacting on a really personal level with the students. All the course lessons are recorded and put into the lesson program, so you can review that. And I'll walk you through what Ascension actually means, because everybody is on an ascension path on some level, even if it's just from 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, or 5th to 6th. And it's really wonderful to be part of your own spiritual growth. And I would hope that you can see the links within the newsletter. Just come and join us. And I think between now and our next newsletter video, be really aware of how you're perceiving the world around you. Be aware of the messages that are coming through. And I'm sure you will recognize your own emotional intelligence. So until the next time, take care. And as always, send me the feedback. Love, love, love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you the next time here on YouTube. Bye for now.